What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another storytime video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the time that I first got high. So, like most people in my state, the first time you ever smoke weed is probably like in middle school or high school. My first time was in middle school. I had made some new friends that had went to a different elementary school than I did. So these were like real new friends in middle school. Never had met them before. And basically, we had went to the park that's right next to the school, and they brought out an apple and this little green container. Now, people who started smoking in 2012 or 2013, or were smoking during that time, I guess I should say, you remember that weed used to come in these little green containers. Well, they weren't always green, but usually they were green containers. And it was so like they were like smell-proof containers, kind of. And the apple, of course, for most of you that have smoked before know this. That's like a little contraption that you make, a little smoking device, and you basically poke a hole through the top of it into the middle of the apple core, and then you poke a hole through the side of the apple, and you can basically make a smoking device where you put the weed on the top where the core is at, like where the stem would usually be. You take the stem out of the apple, poke a hole, you put the weed in there, and then you light the weed, and you take hits out of the little hole that you make in the side of the apple, and then you can eat the apple after. But yeah, my first time, I remember like we didn't have too much weed at the time. Of course, it was hard to come by, being that we were middle schoolers, and at the time it was only medically available. You could not recreationally get it. Everybody else had already smoked before, and all the kids that I was there with. So I was the only person that was like a newcomer, and basically everybody took one hit out of the apple, and then they offered me a hit after. And I really didn't want to do it at first, but of course, like most people, peer pressure gets to you, and you hit the apple. It's a weird saying, but that's a lot of people's first experiences are like that. So when I hit the apple, I remember it was all like already like kind of black. It was almost ash, but it wasn't white ash. It was like it was ash. It was almost ash, and it really didn't affect me that much. I think due to the fact that it was already ash, but I had went with those guys a couple other times to go smoke weed after, and so like the second time that I had smoked weed, it was a bigger effect, due to the fact that it was my own weed that I had paid for, and I was the person that got the first hit because I paid for it. So there was a way to do it. Like if you paid for it, you're the person who gets the first hit, and the person that brings the other stuff or whatever gets the second hit, and the person, maybe like if we're staying at somebody's house, they get the third hit, or like there was a way to line up who gets the hit after who. So like if somebody brought nothing, they would get to hit it last. Anyway, yeah, that's basically like the first time that I smoked weed. I had a really long hiatus. Like I smoked weed like with them throughout 8th grade, and I think I took like probably about a year break, maybe a bit longer, because I was in homeschooling from 8th and 9th grade, but I would still hang out with them like on like special occasions and stuff like that. We would go hang out to go like see the movies or whatever, and we would smoke before then, and then we would like go hang out at the mall. And I have another funny story about that mall that we used to go to, and this group that I used to hang out with. Why we're not friends anymore, and but anyway, I have another like time that I would consider my first time smoking weed. It was actually a couple years after that. I was going to the same middle school, or I was going to the same high school that they were going to, and it was in 10th grade. It was the next high school that you would go to if you were going to that middle school before. But since I was at homeschooling, I didn't go to a high school right away for 9th grade. I was homeschooled for 9th grade. And in 10th grade, I wanted to get out of that. Because all I was doing was like basically cheating to do my work, to get through it. And I was really good at taking tests. Like, I could remember a lot of this stuff when it came to a test. Because in America, it's multiple choice. It's a super simple thing. So when I had to go to like the testing stuff to test out of 8th grade, I passed that like really easily. But in 9th grade, I really didn't do shit. I really just slacked off, and I gained a lot of weight too in those 2 years. And when I ended up going back to 10th grade, this was kind of after the little incident happened that I will talk about in another video. With that group that I had smoked with before, so we weren't really friends. I mean, we were cordial, but they weren't friends with me. They'd invite me places or do things with me anymore, and that is entirely my fault. But I had made a lot of new friends, and that's just how things work. You know, I had multiple sides to me. So that was one side of me that I met those guys through, which was actually through gaming, playing video games. We played video games all the time together back then. And I had made new friends through gaming, and I had made new friends through baseball. So I had two other new groups of friends, and a bunch of girls that I would hang out with, because for some reason, girls still liked the way that I look, even though I was a bigger guy, and I still am. But that's a different thing. Anyway, I had made this new group of friends that I would go smoke with, and we would hang out and stuff. And like I said, we could play video games, play baseball. All of these guys were on my baseball team. I wasn't really able to ever play in the baseball team because I did not go to the school that long. I ended up having some problems with some people, and I ended up leaving that school. But anyway, the first time that I ever got high, and I consider it the first time again because this time was like after a really, really long tolerance break, basically, was with one of my buddies that I had from middle school. He had offered me some weed, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take a hit. And he offered me green because he was a really good friend of mine. Like, really, really good friend. He would stay over at my house all the time when we were younger. And we kind of got separated during that time that I was in homeschool. But we were still pretty good buddies. And he had offered me greens. I'd hit it, and I got super, super high. I remember just being there feeling like I was in, like, I felt like a different universe, honestly. Like, everything looked crazy. Everything looked beautiful. And it was just like, that was just such a different experience versus my first time getting high in 7th grade. That's why I consider it a first time. But it really wasn't my second. It wasn't technically a first time. It was like, I guess I would consider it the first time having really high quality weed too. You know, because the stuff that I had back in 2013, or yeah, I think 2013, was like low quality kind of. It was the beginnings of legal weed. By the time that I was in 10th grade, it had already been like 3 years of advancements in cannabis, and there's just massive advancements in those amount of time, in that amount of time, especially during those years. So the weed that I had in 10th grade was just, it was a way better first experience, and it was just almost unexplainable. But yeah, those were like the first times that I ever experienced cannabis, and I still smoke till this day. Cannabis is an amazing thing, and yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Later.